After what felt like months of bashing against wind and waves, we finally turned southwest into the southeasterly trades. From here, we'd fly towards Lombok, and I tell you what, the sailing was good.
Right, part 2 of Operation Get Back to the UK before our visa runs out. We are now leaving Bau-Bau. The forecast seems to be fairly strong southeasterlies, pretty consistent. Wave heights varying from between 0.5 metre to 1.5. We're just going to suck it and see. How many times have I said that? I'm just going to get out there and hopefully get some jolly good sailing in. First destination is a huge reef. It's actually, I think it's a national park. And we're going to try and get there first and see what the sea state is like to see if the reef actually offers us any protection. If not, there's a couple of islands we can duck down, but they're anything between 120 and 150 miles away. So this will be our longest journey we've done since crossing the Makassar Strait. Having some fun and games here with some currents. Got 2 knots running with us at the moment, which is great, but poor old autopilot's getting a bit confused as Esper does this. And we just come around the corner and there's a whole area of Bau-Bau that we never got to discover, which is a shame really, but it's a big port town, Bau-Bau. I'd never heard of it before passage planning this way, but it's pretty significant. And the little taster we got of it, it seemed like a pretty nice town actually. Unfortunately, we did only go ashore once because we thought we were going to be leaving the next day, and of course we didn't in the end, and we'd packed away the dinghy. But maybe one day we'll return and explore a little bit more and see what she has to offer. By the way, I realised I should give a shout out to David Wheatley, also known as Lensman, who we've been sending our passage updates to. Now, David is based in the UK. I first met David on the YBW Sailing Forum years ago, probably 20 years ago, who went by the name of Lensman. He's a keen photographer. And David has been taking our passage plans and monitoring our progress. And he doesn't just do it to us, actually. He does it for a number of people. So it's always good to have a point of contact. Obviously, we keep in touch with our family as well, but David is a sailor, so he understands weather patterns, conditions, and so on. So, David, thank you very much indeed for being there for us. It's always good to have someone with a bit of knowledge who knows your sailing plans. So, cheers, mate. I haven't done much talking to camera today because I've been quietly enjoying this sailing experience. It's so good not to have that engine on and still be doing decent speed. So the wind got up to, well, it's gusting up to 25, so we'd hit 6.5 knots, which was nice. Running jib and jigger, so mizzen and head sail Yankee. But generally it's settled in about 17, 18 knots, so we've been cruising along at sort of 5.5 knots, which has been very pleasant. Now things have calmed down a little. It's late in the afternoon, as you can probably see, so now we're hitting over 4 knots, but drops under sometimes. We'll just wait for the wind to settle to about 10, 12 knots, and then I think it's time for the code 0.
Well, we sailed practically the whole night. In fact, we have sailed most of the way across. We've now arrived at the atoll in good time. I was a bit worried we were going to get here too early at one stage, but in fact we've come in. We've now got the sun behind us, which means that as we look for somewhere to anchor, we should be able to see through the water with our X-ray specs to find somewhere to put the anchor. It's interesting. It's really it's flat in here compared to outside the atoll, and I have read this is supposed to be the third largest atoll in the world, but I will double check that before we put this out. Lots of tiny islands around us, some uninhabited and some absolutely jam-packed with houses, and we were both wondering, why do they choose that island and not that island? You know, why has some got nobody on them at all? I wondered maybe some of them have water, and maybe it just takes one person to build a house and someone else builds it next to them. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, lovely morning. Looking forward to getting the anchor down and have some breakfast.
Well, that's a pretty good sail, I have to say. You can hear the engines on now, but we've only just stuck it on. We managed to sail pretty much the whole of it, broad reaching, with those southeasterly trades, which were great, and probably averaged about, I don't know, 5.5 knots. We're only just now getting out of the easterly swell. Now, on our port side is a huge, perfect circular atoll. Now, I had to eye this up as a contingency because it's the first atoll we get to. It is possible to get in it, but it's big. I mean, it's about 6 miles, I think, in diameter. So it's a pretty big one. And if we were to go into it, it would mean turning around and going against the current. We've got about a knot of current with us at the moment. And it looks like there's local fishermen are using it as a place to hide out. Unfortunately, because the sun is so low, I still can't really see the reef at the moment.
The best time to enter a reef is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m, with the sun behind you. If it's too low or in front of you, the light reflects across the surface, making it difficult to see what lies beneath. During the midday period, the sun's high enough to make out the reef through the water, especially if you're wearing polarised sunglasses. So this is why we time our passages to arrive during the optimum time frame.
We're going to carry on. We're not going to spend too much time here because the whole atoll itself, I think, is about 50 miles in length. It's a series of many reefs, and moreover, the charts are out significantly, at least on Navionics. We're also running iSailor as well on the iPad, and that seems to correlate a lot more closely with the satellite imagery, but I don't really want to take any risks, especially as we're a little bit tired. So we're going to head over into the northwest corner where there are a few islands which hopefully should give us a bit of protection from this swell that's coming through, and also if there's any wind that picks up. 120 miles, anchor down, time for some sleep. Oh, really good night's sleep last night. I must have got 9 hours, which was marvellous. Bit of a blustery start to the morning though. We had big squall pass through. There's another one over there, and unfortunately whoever's in charge of turning the Wi-Fi on and off on the island hasn't woken up yet, so there's no internet. So the next run is a good 40 miles now to the next island, and after that it's our big one. So I'm hoping at the next one we can just settle for a couple of days, get some internet and prepare ourselves for the last of the big passages, and hopefully no more squalls today, but you just never know, do you? I forgot to say, we're leaving this big atoll and the exit's a bit sketchy. There's lots of shallow patches and rocks and reefs, so we're just going to try and take it easy. We've got satellite, we've got Navionics, we've got iSailor, so hopefully among all of those we should be able to sort of get ourselves out. We're right in the northwest corner. Did I say northeast? We're in the northwest, and so we haven't got too far before we get out into deep water. Hopefully once we're out in deep water we should have a bit of current to assist us as well. Over my shoulder there is the first sailboat we have seen since Lembe, Bitung, but it's not your normal sailboat. This is a Fanisi. This is a traditional Indonesian trade ship They've been on the oceans for well over 100 years or so, and it was in the sort of 50s, I suppose, that they removed the sails and put engines in them and used them for trade across all over Indonesia. I'm not entirely sure what his sail configuration is. It's quite different to ours, but he's got a mainsail and he's got a foresail. So he's doing what we're doing, which is the motor sail with this wind just behind the beam to help us out of here. It's great to see. There's a whole load of fishing boats just up here, and I saw them all racing across, and I thought they were racing across because of this. That's a really heavy squall. I mean, super heavy. Doesn't look very pleasant. But anyway, as I looked ahead, I realised actually there's loads of bird activity here and fish jumping out of the water. So I think one of them spotted the fish, and all the others came racing over. Meanwhile, this squall, I'm not entirely sure what it's doing. I'd like to think it's going to go behind us, but we've battened down the hatches just in case, because it's a really heavy one. You can see the denseness of some of this rainfall, and I think if it does come this way, we're just going to have to furl away the head sail, because furl away both sails, because that could be pretty nasty to contend with. Anyway, right now I'm having to contend with these bloody fishing boats coming straight across our bow. Always typical, isn't it?
Well, this is very nice, isn't it? We are getting an average of 17 to 18 knots, up to 23, 24 knots of wind, and hitting 6 knots regularly, 6.5, 5.5, around that sort of mark on a beautiful sunny day. The waves are no more than a metre, I'd say, coming on the beam to the broad reach. So we're just loving a perfect morning of sailing. It's getting us to our destination a little quicker than we anticipated. Didn't know it was going to be this good out here. 9 out of 10 I'd give it, actually. This is what it's all about. This is why we have boats. This is why we go for years with just bloody motoring around the place, and then we get one morning like this and we bloody love it. Only 9 out of 10 because I haven't caught a fish yet. I've got 2 lures out the back, 2 rappelers. One is bouncing on the surface, the other one's deep. They're getting blown around a bit because of the waves and the wind, but we've still got a way to go, another couple of hours, crossing everything, because what would make it perfect for me is a nice big kingfish, wahoo, whatever you want to call it, to go into the fridge.
Well, it's been a fantastic sail today. A little bit more heeled over because we're turned more into wind. That's to make our way down to this island. And as we're approaching it now, hopefully we should get some shelter from the huge reef that sticks out the corner here. Sea state should calm down, hopefully. And then we've got to turn in more into wind. And it gets very shallow. And then we've got to wheedle our way through a reef to get to the town there. So, yeah, any minute now, I think we're going to have to put the sails away and engine on, or at the very least sheet the head sail and sail more into wind. Brilliant. I think it's the best sail we've had since sometime in Malaysia. This is very pleasant, out of the swell, but still with enough wind to sail. It's our destination over there, so we're going to sail as much as we can. The depth drops, or rather comes up from over 100 metres to about 15, and it's a bit overcast now, but it's been a bloody good sail. I have to say though, I don't think we've ever passed as many FADs as we have done on this journey, and I can't say any of them were lit, so I would not advise doing this passage at night. So here we are at Benteng, and I knew that this was going to be a nice little spot, and sure enough it is beautiful. You wouldn't have thought, looking out across this calm bay, that it's blowing 15-20 knots out there, but really good protection, surrounded by mangroves, lots of little inlets, estuaries, and a quiet town there, supposedly with internet, but can't seem to get connected, and a ferry sitting there waiting, probably having an afternoon nap. So I just said to Liz, we'll probably spend a couple of days here before we then push on for our last step, which is going to be, well, pretty much, I think it's going to be all the way to Lombok, but we might put in a stop just before, just to break it up. It all depends on the wind. In the meantime, I'm just going to get back and relax and enjoy this beautiful little spot, and also to say goodbye to Sulawesi, I suppose.